Every race got different milks.
Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Once again.
Yep. Here we are. Oh, no, sorry.
Once again, I'm torn into pieces. Can't deny it, can't pretend.
Just
I thought you were the doink.
Fuck. Gotta listen to Ghostfacers. Everything's a crossover.
We gotta at least drop one in.
I also love that you knew I was going to Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, what else would it be?
And also that you knew so many of the words to Behind These Hazel Eyes. Maybe her best song.
Look, I've got hazel eyes. I can't help it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Are they just brown?
No, they're not brown at all. They're hazel.
Your eyes?
Yeah, no, they're green mostly and then yellowy.
Are they?
You're even looking at me.
No. Not your eyes.
Look. Hold on, we're going to stare deeply into each other's eyes.
Yeah, you entertain yourselves for a second. Yeah, all right.
And we didn't kiss.
This time.
I was tempted.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost got lost behind those hazel eyes.
Hey, there we go. I don't know what's going on with you.
Jesus. Good Lord. Good intro, man. You're old.
Yeah, but yesterday
it was your birthday.
Yeah, yesterday was my birthday.
How old are you now?
37.
37. He's got 3 more years to live.
What?
Yep.
Based on what? What the old witch said?
Well, the contract I signed.
Oh, no. What? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I golfed, and I went out for a nice steak dinner last night.
Very nice. Very nice.
Steak wasn't very good, but it's fine.
What kind of steak?
Ribeye.
Ribeye?
It's the problem was they went for circumference more than, like, depth.
Sorry, we're still talking about steak, right?
Yeah,
it was like a fucking tuna can.
I mean, kind of. It was it was like a 12-ounce ribeye, but it was like it was big, but like fucking thin.
Oh, I hate that.
And I was like, I would have rathered a much smaller steak, but thicker, because the problem is to get a mid-rare. It basically was like it was like tan, like it looked like it'd been boiled, and I was like, fuck this.
That sucks.
Yeah. Slightly disappointed.
I mean, we all know, especially those of you that are on the Patreon, you know that I've had a steak that changed my life.
Yeah.
But I will say,
yeah,
I seldom get the urge for steak. Like, even for special meals and that, I don't go like, now's my chance, get a steak. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's like the special meal for a lot of people. I don't know, like, steak's fine. I like it, but I never go there. Is this a thing you've just been like, because I also feel like you, as a foodie guy, is it because you're making more you're like, I actually don't do steak that much because I'm doing.
I actually don't eat red meat basically at all.
Right.
Unless I'm like at a thing like family event or something and there's like a barbecue, then there's a burger, I'll eat that.
Yeah. What if there were like 2 enormous trays of too much barbecue?
Then I'll eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'll have, I don't know, 3 sausages.
Yeah. Help a brother out.
4. I eat a lot. But yeah, I guess were those pork probably, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I otherwise I really don't eat red meat.
Sure.
Like I only really eat seafood mostly, and then sometimes chicken.
Now, when you go out and you have a special dinner, like for a birthday or something like that, you got your steak and that. Do you like to get dessert? Because I'll say when I go out for like a special dinner, I am on a normal day, I will not get a dessert at a restaurant. But when it's like a special dinner, it's like, I feel like I should. You know, like I asked for the dessert menu. I shouldn't, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But I think it's like the occasion spurs it on.
I mean, you act like you don't almost ever do that, but I think anytime you go out for dinner, like,
No, I don't. Truly, we don't.
I guess maybe it's just certain places in town that you would do that.
What do you think? You're
Klondike ribbon salmon.
That's different. That bread pudding.
So you like that bread pudding so much that people called you bread pudding?
Listen, get my dessert's name out your motherfucking mouth.
Actually, that just maybe even today or yesterday.
I haven't been back since it opened up under new management, and I'm worried about the bread pudding.
Yeah, like it's not back. I mean, they were notorious for specific things. I think it was maybe 2 days ago. I should have sent it to you, but I had the bread pudding showed up on my.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was briefly my nickname when we worked together. That was my nickname. God, look how happy I am in that picture.
3 years ago today.
So we like basically went for your birthday.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Or a meeting or something, yeah.
It's because we were filming that thing.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So we were filming,
I remember that.
We were filming that thing. Oh, also, yeah, because it's my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
All the videos of you doing the air, sucking up the air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so all of those.
That's fun.
Yeah. But
so at any rate, yeah, you're 37.
And not like you, young buck.
I'm 36, baby.
You got so much.
I've got all this vitality.
I mean, if you do it in actual like lifespan forecasting, you might be older than me, but
no. You and I both know that like just fate will intervene and be like, he's trying too hard.
I mean,
you're out at 63 and I'm going to live to fucking like 88 and I'll be like, God, it's long.
They're going to be like, yeah, it's true. And they're going to be like, what's his secret? Well, he ate a tray of sausage every day.
Yeah. What's my secret? 6 Italian sausages.
Don't worry. Yeah, I just eat one portion.
A party-sized bag of sour cream and onion chips.
Don't worry, one bag.
It's one bag. A single portion, if you will.
Yeah, single serving size.
Yeah. Man, my nightmare would be living on Jakku. I only get one quarter portion.
Jesus Christ.
That would suck.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Yeah, you fucks
we're bringing hawks to you.
You have played exactly to type. I was both like, it like warmed my heart and also infuriated me that I put out the call. I was like, hawk themed characters. Isn't that a fun idea? And truly, no fewer than 9 Hawk Tuah questions came in across all channels, and I was like, I was mad about it. I was also like,
what did you think was gonna?
They grow up so fast.
Yeah.
I was like,
the I was gonna say, I meant the like this the what is it, the sensei, like the
student is now the master.
But it said the thought that just popped in my head was, yes, the hunted becomes the hunter.
Nope.
Like, that is not.
Nope. I mean, that might have been your school experience.
The huntee becomes the hunter.
Yeah. Nope. But yeah, fuck. So many fucking Hawk Tuah questions. You've all made me so proud and angry.
But we're talking about hawk characters.
Hawk-themed characters.
Which you would think, what? Just the hawks. But there's not. There's the hawks. There is Hawk. There is Black Hawk.
There's Firehawk.
Yeah. Weirdly, a lot of hawks.
Yeah.
To you.
Nice. Yeah.
Let's start.
Yeah, let's spit on that thing. And by thing, I mean Mike. And spit, I mean talk.
I mean, you can spit like rhymes.
I could, I guess. Drop a beat.
What was the sound that just came out of you?
Yep.
What? Drop a beat.
I was warming up. I gotta stretch to rap, obviously.
Wait, why?
You don't know anything about rap.
Let's go over to Facebook.
Going to the face and the book. Going to the Facebook.
Oh, he's spitting now.
Yeah. Mom's Hawk Tuah. Nope. Fuck. I was trying to do Mom's Spaghetti. No, that backfired.
What about Mom's Hawk Tuah? Talking about how I grew up.
This has gone horribly. 3, 2, 1.
Did you doink your mom?
3, 2, 1. This has gone really poorly.
First question comes from...
We're recording too late at night nowadays.
It's true. Gary and Chetta.
Okay.
asks, is there any reason why Hawkman and Hawkgirl only reincarnate in their own gender?
Huh.
Great question.
It is a good question.
Especially now when we have a new doctor who we've had a female doctor now. Now we have a black and LGBT doctor.
Yep.
Reincarnation doesn't have to be sort of binary like that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, even last week, talking about the Amazons, we talked about the Well of Souls and how like some souls of people are reclaimed and reincarnated as Amazons. And when the last time
well enough, you'll suck the soul right out of you. Well,
you made that joke. And one of those souls was reincarnated as a woman, and it's this kind of like really nice sort of like trans allegory that they were always
love that
a woman, and they finally get like the reward of being reincarnated as an Amazon. Now, in that particular case, you'd make the argument that it's like their soul was. That's how they were. That's how they felt. It's what they were in their literal soul. So that in being reincarnated, of course, that's how they would be. There's other characters that have reincarnated and switched over time. Like Wotan, the sorcerer, is a good example of that. Arch enemy of Dr. Fate. But Wotan has been a man, a woman, all through time, and like many times. It makes the weird argument. You know, I don't think this is deliberate, but it's just when you look at how it's set up and these stories and what they mean, it does kind of make the weird argument that, like that meme we saw online, the Hawks are like aggressively cis and straight.
Yeah.
You know, like almost like impossibly so. That like for 1,000 incarnations of you're just a man in love with a woman. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's. Which, you know, like whatever, but that's not been the intention as they've been writing these stories, because the awareness or the willingness to write about these things hasn't been there until very, very recently. I'm sure in the next 10 years, someone's going to write a Hawk story that
gender bends or
introduces a previously unknown element like that. Or maybe I'm just not thinking of one, But if you look at it the way that we're setting this up, so with Bia, that Amazonian, with Wotan, who is very kind of fluid in this sort of like magical sense, it does sort of make the argument that like Hawkman and Hawkgirl are just like, they're like zeros on the Kinsey scale, impossibly straight cis people, you know what I mean? Which is, I don't know, maybe not interesting, that's not the right word, but I guess that's the conclusion you would draw from that.
Yeah.
Which feels, to live 1,000 lives and not even try, you know, like, I don't know. It's a little boring.
I mean.
But that's kind of their thing, though, too. Like, it's fate, right? Like, they reincarnate and they live, like, cyclical lives. So, to be fair, like, a character like Wotan reincarnates and they live more life. The Hawks reincarnate, but they have this like fatalistic path of finding each other, falling in love, and dying. Sure. It's like a pattern. So yes, technically they're living more life. They get new experiences, all these kind of things. But they're also on this cycle, a thing that like Wotan doesn't deal with. It's not like that pattern is always the same. It's just live and then reincarnate into the next one. So there's something slightly different about them too that maybe makes it a little bit less weird, but yeah.
Hawkgirl is Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Hawkman.
Who's the most aggressively cis straight man you can think of?
Sam Worthington.
Yeah. I don't have notes. Yeah.
Painfully straight. Yeah. In like a very uninteresting kind of way.
Yeah, like not even toxically.
No.
She's just
no, because I would sometimes say that is masking.
Yeah, that's fair. Right.
No. You have to just be like the most boring.
Yeah, fuck Sam Worthington. Yeah.
Shots fired.
That was such a good pick. I just stopped thinking. I was like, I think I'm out.
Like, I don't know how to beat that.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Jamie Edmond, who asks, Is the Gentleman Ghost originally a Hawkman villain, or did they just become associated over time due to nth metal properties?
No, he is a Hawkman villain. Now, there's a in his original appearances, he like made himself out to be a ghost, but it was a Scooby-Doo scenario.
Yes,
he was really just a dude.
Yeah.
Then in the Silver Age, they redid it, and he, or maybe not. At some point, they redid it, and his origin essentially ended up becoming that he, in like the 1800s or the Wild West or whatever, was like a highwayman, and the then incarnations of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Nighthawk and Cinnamon, these sort of like Wild West characters, they come across some sort of horrible crime or a robbery or whatever, and Nighthawk right away is like, it's Gentleman Jim Craddock. It's that piece of shit. And they go after him and they hang him, but it wasn't him. So they like unjustly lynch him.
Jesus.
And so then his soul is bound to the mortal realm until he can get justice by avenging his own death. Except that the person that killed him constantly reincarnates. So his ghost is trapped on Earth because the Hawks reincarnate.
Wow.
So he's caught in this endless cycle of just existing. So Gentleman Ghost, if you look up his first appearance, it's in an issue of Flash Comics, but that's because that's where Hawkman stories started out. So he's always been a Hawkman villain first. Now, Gentleman Ghost has fought Flash, Batman, all sorts of other characters over the years, but is 100% part of the Hawks Rogues Gallery, and that's a weirder Rogues Gallery we don't talk about as much, but you got Gentleman Ghost, Shadow Thief, Onimar Sin, Bith Rock, who we haven't talked about in a long time. Mattermaster, Monocle, like those are all like Hawk villains.
Who's the other guy that fucking reincarnates too or doesn't die?
So many.
What's the one that's like
Resurrection Man?
No, the one from Egyptian times who fucking the caveman guy.
Oh, Vandal Savage.
Vandal Savage, isn't he?
So he doesn't reincarnate. He's immortal.
Sorry. Immortal, that's
and
right.
The CW version, they make him Hathset, another iconic Hawk villain.
That's right, yeah.
That's not how it is in the comics. Vandal Savage is totally separate from Hathset.
But he is one of their villains, right?
Hathset is.
But not Vandal Savage?
Vandal Savage actually, I think the first hero he ever fights is the Flash.
Okay.
But it has sort of become a more general, like DC universe level kind of villain, like a Justice League.
When you've been around
villain.
forever, I'm sure you've like touched a lot of different characters.
But started as a Flash villain.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next question, which means we are leaving Facebook and heading out over to Threads.
Threads.
Mr.
Sorry,
E64.
you interrupted me. I'd like to.
No, I didn't. I
Threads. See, you knew when to come in.
Threads.
Oh.
Somebody let us know online how many times it should be.
It's definitely 8.
It's threads.
I hate what you just did. Threads.
I can deal with 5 or 4.
8. You get 2 bars, and then the threads lands on a.
Did you hear how that sounds?
It lands on a 1.
It's so many.
Threads.
Oh god, it literally makes my skin crawl. I don't even know why. It's too many. Anyways, let us.
Next
know.
time we're gonna do 9 just to fuck with you.
I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna fucking doink. Mr. E64. Where do y'all think Hawk and Dove work best in the DC universe?
Right.
They've been Titans members, street-level vigilantes, and even magical avatars for the Lords of Order and Chaos. But none of those become hard to sell people on these characters when they don't even have a consistent niche to help explain the character like the Blackhawks or Carter Hall.
It's a fair point. So Hawk and Dove, these are the quote avatars of war and peace.
Yeah.
they're Hawk, they get their powers magically. They have magic powers. And they come from a Lord of Order and a Lord of Chaos. And their names are Teratea and Tuah. And this is a Lord of Order and a Lord of Chaos that fall in love with each other. And they have this experiment of, if we imbue a sort of partnered set of people with each of our powers, the balance of our powers, that's our experiment, basically.
Sure.
So originally, it's brothers, Hank and Don Hall, are Hawk and Dove. And the idea is that one is warlike, aggressive, stuff like he gets powers like super strength, invulnerability, shit like that. Dove gets powers like heightened intelligence, flight, better danger sense, like things like that. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, but working together, they're the best of both worlds, and see, the balance is the way to go. That's the idea of them. And you go like, wow, like they get their powers from the Lords of Order and Chaos. They should be on like fucking Dr. Fate's level. And then you read their comics and it's like they're like breaking up like gun runners in like the street and stuff like that. Like they do kind of not. They either fight other characters that have similar powers to them. Like there's a whole bunch of other bird characters, like Kestrel, his big bad guy of theirs and stuff like that. So they're either fighting like clone ideas of themselves, or they're like breaking up like drug rings and stuff like that. Like it does feel disconnected. They have this cosmic power that they use to fight like Green Arrow crimes or Batman crimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is a little bit weird if we're being honest. Like part of that is that they put them in DC, like that's like their hometown, but that's also because like it's a political thing, right? Like Hank was always like more conservative, and Don was always more liberal.
Armageddon too?
What?
2001 or whatever?
Well, no, but Hank is involved in that because that's the whole thing where it's like they were like, well, Monarch is obviously Captain Atom, and then DC was like, fuck you for guessing it. We'll make it Hawk for no reason. That's what that is. But so, I mean, in that sense, Hawk kind of gets elevated to a more cosmic thing. Then he absorbs chronal energy, becomes extant. Like he ends up going to that level. And, eventually Dove, the Dawn Granger, the female Dove, the second Dove, her powers, especially during something like Blackest Night, and after that, like she's connected to like the white light of life.
Sure.
Like she could like dispel Black Lanterns and shit like that. Like she had a bit more power there. But when you look at like most Hawk and Dove comics, if they're not fighting another kind of weird bird thing, they're just fighting like drug dealers in that. Now, I will say, I don't hate that, though. Like
I like them as street level vigilantes.
I kind of like them at like lower levels, maybe not the way to put it, but less cosmic-y kind of thing. I'm into that, especially if you think the idea is like our experiment isn't that they'll reshape the world, but if you're these like lords, you just want to see like what would regular people do empowered by the two sides of this coin.
Yeah.
I think there's something interesting to that, and because there was always a sort of political angle and stuff like that, I'm into that. So them being on the Titans works for me.
Totally.
It's a nice middle ground, even.
Yeah, I think that would be my second. Yeah.
I don't think I would like them elevated to something like the Justice League Dark.
Sure.
Or something like that. It's also weird because like their powers are magic in origin, but they're not necessarily magic in like use.
Power, yeah.
Like Hawk doesn't burst into a room and like dispel runes.
Sure.
He has the power to punch more. You know what I mean? Like he gets it from magic, but it's not like a magic power.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. That's partly why they end up in this weird position too.
I totally agree. Yeah. Next question leaves Threads and goes over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
From Instagram, we've got Alfred Izzati who asks, has Warhawk from Batman Beyond ever made his way into the main comic book continuity?
I think so. So in in the DC animated universe, and by that I mean the animated universe of Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, sure.
Warhawk is in Batman Beyond. He's part of the Justice League Beyond. And what we learn is his name is Rex Stewart. He's the son of John Stewart and Shira.
Rex is such a fucking comic book person name, and you don't really ever see it in real...
So many Rexes.
Yeah, you never really see it anymore.
Rex Stewart is Warhawk. Rex Mason is Metamorpho. Rex Tyler is Hourman.
Maybe because a lot of these characters were from like the 50s and stuff, and that was a name back then.
I'm also not sure what Rex is short for. You know what I mean? Like Jack is short for John, or like Jonathan.
Yeah.
Rex must be like a...
Yeah, because you never hear it anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, unless you see it next to Tyrannosaurus.
Is it like a different Richard short form? I don't know what Rex is supposed to be short for.
No. I'll look it up, but you continue.
But at any rate, his name is Rex Stewart. He's the future son of John Stewart and Shira, Hawk Girl. Because in that Justice League, Reginald, interesting. Actually, that sort of makes sense from a Latin perspective. Well, because they both sort of like tie back to like Rex and Regina, or like King and Queen,
or Rexford apparently, but
Rex, that's made up.
Yeah.
I mean, technically all names are made up, but you know what I mean.
Extra,
yeah. But on that cartoon, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl are a thing.
Okay.
And in an episode of Justice League Unlimited, they go to the future, or maybe just Justice League. They go to the future, and John Stewart meets Warhawk, and there's this whole like Batman has to be like, don't learn too much about your future, like, you know,
sure, yeah,
a real fucking buzzkill.
Yeah, classic Batman.
I think Warhawk did eventually work his way into technically DC continuity just via Batman Beyond comics. Now, some Batman Beyond comics were not in the main DC timeline. They were on Earth 12, which is that continuity. But there was a Batman Beyond comic that eventually integrated some of that stuff, and I think Warhawk made it in.
Okay.
And if he didn't, I think we can more or less assume a version of him is there. Now, does that mean that main continuity, John Stewart and Shira get together? Maybe not. Maybe he's got a different origin, or you know, like, it's comics, right? Because, you know, like, if you were to read a John Stewart book, he's not, like, talking about Shira a bunch.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's a little messy that way. But I think they did bring the Justice League Beyond into a canon Batman Beyond book. But again, it just means it's a possible future.
Sure.
So.
All right. Next question comes from ABC.
Brooks.
As easy as 1, 2, 3.
Brooks.
Easy as do, re, mi.
Brooks.
ABC.
Brooks.
1, 2, 3.
Brooks.
Baby, you and me.
Brooks.
Brooks.
Brooks. Brooks, 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 Brooks. Now you're milking it. It was a totally fine length before.
What I've said.
Ladies.
ABC Brooks.
That's me complaining to the guy doing my circumcision.
It was a
totally fine length before.
Yeah, what did you do?
You did this.
Also, is that you as an adult getting a circumcision, or you as a baby getting a circumcision? Be like, hey, it was a perfect one before.
It was a look who's talking scenario.
Yeah, I've sort of figured. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Yeah. ABC Brooks asks, please tell me about the Blackhawks. I feel like they are a blind spot in my DC knowledge, and maybe I'm not the only one.
So the Blackhawks are, they're like a team of like ace pilots during the war.
Of course.
It's a war comic. And they had like matching uniforms, and they had a secret island base, and they'd like come out of the sky, and they'd do these dog fights, and they'd go, haka! And they'd like...
Were they like a separate group in the military, but equal group?
Easy. No.
I mean, just when it came out, I'm just saying.
Here's a fun fact about them, though. So, as we know, there was a period of time where war comics were huge.
Yeah.
For a period of time, there were only 5 non-anthology comics.
Wow.
That could hold their own sales. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. One of them might have been Captain Marvel, and the 5th one was Blackhawks.
Really?
Yeah. So popular.
And it was just dogfights and stuff.
Well, here's the thing. It was war comics, but they had a sci-fi element to it.
Oh.
So, like, the Blackhawks would go on these missions, but they'd fight, like, you've probably seen it in other DC things, but, like, the War Wheel.
Sure.
That's a big DC thing. That comes from Blackhawks comics. Oh. So it's this, like, giant wheel with spikes. It's like, you might as well, it's such like it feels like a Kirby thing. Like,
yeah, it
the
sounds
impossible
like
tank, you know? Like,
yeah.
But that's from Blackhawks. There would be, like, shit like that, or, like, robots, or, like, they were, like, fighting
not
a crazier version of the war.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Because they were like, when we started, we could fight Nazis, but now, robots.
I think even when it was, like, it always had this, like, extra adventure kind of layer to it, which I think is sort of fun. So it starts with one guy who's like an ace pilot and he's caught behind enemy lines and stuff like that. And he ends up like forming this group. Now, initially he's unnamed, he's mysterious. In later retcons they give him a name, but more or less he's a Polish combatant. And the thing with the Blackhawks is they like represented different countries.
Okay.
There's a guy named Andre from France. There was a guy named I think the Polish guy's, the captain's like sidekick was called Stanislaus or something.
Okay.
It's also Eastern European. Like they were from different areas. They had I'd say racistly named Chinese companion called Chop Chop.
Jesus.
But to their credit, Chop Chop started as their cook and became a full-fledged pilot and member of the Blackhawks.
Okay.
Like not in like 1997, like in the comics.
Oh wow, okay.
So Chop Chop became part of the team, but like we gotta.
Was that his first name?
There's no way, you know, like
his Christian name.
Well, certainly not, but yeah, they represented all these different things. Now, there's been like a rotating cast. You know, we've talked about Zinda Blake before, Lady Blackhawk. It started where she was just like, I really want to be a Blackhawk one day. She eventually does. But like, it kind of starts with like, it's like, oh, what, like a dame flying a plane kind of thing?
Sure, yeah.
But eventually she also joins the team. So it did have a rotating cast, but there's sort of like a core, I can't remember how many, like, between 5 and 10, a sort of core group of them or whatever. But yeah, they would do these kind of like heightened sci-fi war adventures a little bit. It wouldn't go as sci-fi as, say, like Portals and shit like that, but it would be like an impossible war machine. Yeah, you know, like that kind of shit. Like, a cannon that can fire to the moon. It would be like that kind of, like, mad science kind of shit, you know? Like,
not aliens, though.
No, it wouldn't be stuff like that. But at any rate, pretty cool. And over time, there were all these retcons, and some of them were, like, time displaced, or they lived longer than you'd think. And, like, all that kind of...
Classic, like, Legion shit. Yeah.
Totally. They even did them on Justice League Unlimited.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of cool. They did a version of Blackhawks for that, which is sort of neat. But, yeah, that's sort of their deal. For years, a long time, the thought was that Steven Spielberg was going to do a Blackhawks movie. Because, again, the Blackhawks were massive.
Wow.
In the 50s.
Sure, yeah.
But I think, like, even as early as the 80s, there was talk of a Blackhawks movie. And then every once in a while, we'd cycle back to, you probably were like, during the run of this podcast, it was announced that they were like working on it with Spielberg. It's like, it had already been like 30 years of speculation.
Wow.
On that. So
sure.
Every once in a while, they circle back to the idea, but yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. The next question from Dana the Manatee 04, who asks, are Kendra and Shaira the same people displaced in time or something? The Hawks make my brain explode. Love the Venditti run, though.
Right. So, Shaira is Hawk Woman. Kendra is Hawk Girl.
Okay.
Shaira used to be Hawk Girl, but this is our modern way of separating these two identities.
Sure.
Because, as this question alludes to, they kind of coexist.
Okay.
The big revelation of the Venditti run, the thing that more or less helped untangle the convoluted history of the Hawks, was that it's not just that they reincarnate. It's that they reincarnate in time as well as space. So it's non-linear.
Sure.
So, because the thing where
a
they
doctor-y kind of way, yeah.
The thing they would always get tripped up on is, well, they reincarnate, and you go like, but this guy was here first, and then this one showed up later, blah, blah, blah. And Venditti just went like, timey-wimey.
Sure.
You go, great. Then it's like, that actually solves it. you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's sort of... Kendra is objectively a later incarnation of Shaira, because I think she has some of Shaira's memories.
Okay.
So she is a later incarnation, and Shaira is an earlier incarnation of that same person. But they do sort of overlap in terms of when they exist and what they've been up to and stuff like that. So the big thing with Kendra when she was introduced is that her big thing was about like fighting fate. Carter was like, "You'll love me. You always do." And she was like, "No."
Oh, you mean like the concept. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The idea of her was, she was like, "No, like I'm a different person."
That's what I liked about the Flash TV show.
Well, and they're playing her as Kendra.
Yeah.
There, and so that personality that's Kendra in the comics too. It's like, eventually she kind of goes like, "But I do love you, Carter," and you kind of go, "Ugh."
Yeah.
But we sort of moved away from that with Kendra. We let Carter be with Shaira, especially now that we've untangled their thing. So they get to be together, and you go like, so now Kendra's her own person. In the comics, for a long time, she was with Martian Manhunter, and stuff like that. So they are different people. They share a soul, but in the same way that like Nighthawk and Carter are not the same person. They're reincarnations.
Sure.
But their personalities are a little bit different. Their experiences are a little bit different. It makes you different people. So yes, they're one thread, but they're not the same person.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next question means we're leaving Instagram and heading out over to the Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question comes from Luzar. Very Hawk-esque name.
Yeah, actually.
Who asks, would you want to see more of Holly Granger as Hawk? Also, can you give me a rundown of her character? I don't know much about her, but I think it's an interesting homage to the original Hawk and Dove being siblings.
Yeah, so like I said, the first Hawk and Dove were brothers.
I love the way they did that in the TV show, the Titan.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but great. Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, and they had to change it because, like, in the comics, Dawn Hall, the original Dove, dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths number 12.
Oh, wow.
He dies in Crisis trying to save people from the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons. Crazy. He's doing, like, actual hero work. You know the thing we complain about where it's like they're fighting and buildings are smashing? We're like, do people live here? Dawn dies, like, saving people.
Amazing.
Real hero shit, which so fit his character and stuff like that. Like, it's sad, but kind of perfect, which is cool. And when he died, then another Dove was created, imbued with power. And that Dove was Dawn, D-A-W-N. He was D-O-N. She's D-A-W-N, Dawn Granger. Dawn Granger and Hank Hall as Hawk and Dove are the most printed version of the team.
Sure, yeah.
They have the most adventures. They're kind of the default. When they did New 52, they went back to them.
Yeah,
that's the most done version of that team. When Hank had his like thing as Monarch and Extant and ended up dying, a new Hawk was created and imbued with power. And who is it? We learn it's the long estranged British sister of Dawn Granger.
Wow.
Holly Granger.
Okay.
So H, Hank and Holly.
Sure.
So now sisters. It started with brothers, and now Hawk and Dove are sisters.
Yeah.
Estranged and stuff like that, so they have a tense relationship in the way that Hank and Dawn had a tense relationship. I mean, we've talked about it. If you read those like old like Ditko Hawk and Doves, you could tell that like Ditko was doing it to like, because he was like, I think anyone that believes in peace is a pussy, basically. Because like you read those ones, and Hank's like, let's go into action, and Dawn's like, I don't know. Like,
oh wow,
the Ditko ones are like nakedly like anti-liberal.
Wow.
Which is, whatever. Holly and Dawn have a bit of a run through the like mid to late 2000s. Holly ends up dying in Blackest Night.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, her thing, I think I'd be lying if I said I fully remembered like what her thing was, other than she had the exact kind of temperament of Hank.
Sure.
Like hothead and like, and a lot of anger and act first, think later.
Sure.
That like all the kind of classic duality of Hawk and Dove. She was a good, personality fit for it. But I do think I like the dynamic of Hank and Dawn. As much as it's interesting with the siblings thing, I like that they are just different people leading different lives. And I like that. I just like the way they balance each other and the way they play off each other.
I like it too.
And it doesn't have to be a romance thing. I mean, the comics sort of, bend in and out of that being the thing. And obviously on Titans, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to. And I like that. So Holly was interesting as like a thing, but like, and I think she could still be part of like, in the way that characters come back from the dead all the time and we acknowledge the past of a comic or whatever. But do I need more of her as Hawk? I don't think I do.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Golden Ganji, who asks, are there any Hawk-themed villains that fight any of the Robins?
Oh. Let's think. Just bird-themed Gotham villains. Penguin.
Yeah.
Flamingo.
Sure.
Talons, thank you. More of an owl thing, but closer. At least a predatory bird.
Sure.
Yeah, owls.
Yeah.
The Court of Owls. What are some other bird-themed? Oh, there was Raptor in Nightwing.
Sure.
There was, Hawk. Not that I can think of. Not offhand, although this might be a setup, but I'm just not thinking of something.
I do like the idea that they're asking you, knowing you won't know, and then be like, ha-ha!
I mean, listen, with this show, that's probably what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But
we have a great relationship with our fans.
But I mean, offhand, I would say no. Not that I can think of. Hawk and Dove were part of the Titans, like we talked about, but they're like teammates, not a...
Talon's probably the closest, I think, yeah.
And I think the Titans maybe at one point had to fight Kestrel and something. Like, that's like... Kestrel is sort of like another, like, Lord of Chaos powered bird, like, essentially like Hawk.
Yeah.
Like, over the years, there have been lots of Hawk and Dove, like, mirrors. There's been, what are they called? Condor and Swan, there's Osprey, there's Kestrel, there's like a few. I do think the Titans at one point fought Kestrel, so that's maybe the closest you get to Robin fighting one of them. But yeah.
Does Lady Shiva have like a Hawk thing associated with her?
I don't think so.
Because isn't there like a whole like
not in a way that I can remember. I mean, her thing is obviously highly trained, it's like sort of martial arts assassin who's always looking for a fight to the death. She's looking for someone that could beat her.
I thought she had like there was like a symbol of the hawk or something associated with her in some way.
Maybe not in a way that I'm remembering, but possibly. Yeah. But I think at a certain point, I guess where I'm going with this is not in a way where I'd be like classic Robin fight. You know?
Yeah. No. And Kestrel's never fought.
Just the Titans.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a Robin Titans. It's probably a Nightwing Titans, so that doesn't really count.
Falcon never...
Well, Falcon is a Marvel character, although there's probably a DC character with something Falcon in their name.
Yeah, no, there's Joseph Quinn.
Oh, him. Yeah, no, I don't know. Not in a way that I'm like classic Gotham villain.
Yeah, no.
Not that I'm thinking of, but.
Anyways, next question from Draco.
Firehawk, as far as Hawk-themed characters, maybe, other than Hawk becoming extant.
Yeah.
Firehawk maybe was the one who...
Closest to like a villain.
Well, because she started that way.
Sure.
She was like they tried to recreate the experiment that made Firestorm, and they create Firehawk. She also has nuclear powers. She's not a merged identity, though, like Ronnie and the Professor are. But she eventually, like... sees the light, becomes a hero, helps Firestorm. The two of them fight like Takamak and other kind of nuclear characters and stuff like that. But maybe that's the closest you get to like a character with Hawk in their name, notable villain,
sure,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
wow. All right. Next question from Draco Folly, who asks, "You've said it before. The Venditti run made Hawkman's origin make sense and brought everything into a coherent picture. It does not, however, explain how there is a human Carter Hall running around with all the history of the post-crisis Hawkman, despite the fact we already had the death of Hawkman several years earlier. Make sense of that."
Yeah, Death of Hawkman is a 6-issue miniseries that has him and Adam Strange going up against Despero. And at the end of that book, he dies. And yeah, that's before the Venditti run. And then you're just following Carter. However, if I'm not mistaken, a thing that happens in between there is Dark Knight's Metal.
Okay.
And the version of Hawkman that we meet in there is like, he's the dragon of the World Forge, a giant, like, literal hawk beast. Jeez. That sort of operates like in the monitor sphere. Like,
whoa.
Like one of his incarnations is this like cosmic entity. We meet him in Dark Knight's Metal. Now, again, they reincarnate through time and space, so that's not necessarily a continuity issue. But at the end of Dark Knight's Metal, they use the 10th metal of creation to save the multiverse, and it breaks the source wall, and all sorts of weird cosmic weirdness starts happening. I don't think it's crazy to say that you could interpret that as a version of a retcon punch, you know? I think, just for interest's sake, I would throw one more additional wrinkle onto what Venditti already did, and this is not me saying it's in the Venditti run. This is a thing I would throw in there just to permanently be like, stop looking for gaps.
Yeah.
I'd say, like, they reincarnate across time and space. So it's a long string, and it's got all these weird tangles and stuff like that. Sure, fine. A thing I would throw out there is they either reincarnate into a life more than once, or if like a cosmic thing happens and they come back to life, as even mortal heroes do. Green Arrow comes back to life and stuff like that, that maybe you could get at them before they reincarnate.
Jesus.
So Carter Hall could die and come back as Carter Hall.
Wow.
I would throw that in there, like, just for the sake of, like,
it all works.
Just enjoy it. You know, like I might do that. But in terms of the fucking gotcha journalism of this question, I guess I don't have a great answer.
We have a good and fine relationship with our fans.
You pieces of shit. You fucking...
You want to come for the king?
Who hurt you? Why don't you just want to just enjoy
we
it?
Hurt them. We hurt them.
Oh, well, that tracks.
Yeah. Give them that Hawk Tuah. All right.
Hawk it Tuah me.
Yeah, I kind of already did that, but. Huh. Next question from Galaxy Eyes Ruler, who asks, outside of his own series, where does Hawkman play any kind of big roles?
Right. Well, there's the like the 90s into the 2000s run of JLA.
Yeah.
He's on the Justice League, Identity Crisis, he's big in there, stuff like that. Also, JSA, so Justice Society.
Maybe even more.
Even more so, I would say. Yeah. Hawkman's big there. Certainly if you read, I'm thinking more in the modern day, but if you read like Silver Age Justice League and that, you'll see Hawkman around. He's there. There are some, where else would he show up? He does show up in like some space event things. So I talked about we talked about Death of Hawkman, which obviously has his name in it, but Adam Strange is in that one. But like Ran Thanagar War, I know I'm like slightly stretching the definition. If you put Thanagar in there, you might as well call it a Hawkman book. But like he's in some of those things.
Brightest Day.
Hawkman was in. He's part of like Blackest Night, Brightest Day.
Yeah.
He's part of. I would put the Justice League of America series from the New 52. Hawkman's part of that. JSA is probably the big one though, and I think it's the most interesting one. And I really like him with those characters. I like Carter interacting with like Alan Scott and Jay Garrick and with.
He feels like
Dr.
he's of
Fate.
That period.
I mean, he is technically like his first appearance is in the 40s. He's in the Justice Society from back then.
Yeah.
But because of like, the Silver Age version was the alien cop, Qatar Hall, right? And he's the one that comes and joins the Justice League and all this kind of stuff. The Golden Age version was the archaeologist who reincarnates and he was an Egyptian prince kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's the one on the Justice Society. Now, obviously, they're all one. But I think that's anything Justice Society, I think, is fun for getting some Hawkman stuff in there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Next question, which means we are leaving Reddit and heading on over to the Docscord.
Oh,
yep.
DOCS cord to go. I could dox it, score the docs.
Nice. That's good, even.
Nah.
And right.
Thank God.
Thank God that song is just in your head.
Yeah, for non-rice related reasons.
That anyone would know that.
Yeah. And that's a fine thing to say.
It's funny because you probably had to backwards mechanic rice too hot to go.
I barely know the real song. I would say I know the rice one way better.
I mean, no one's surprised by that. First question from the Docscord comes to us from Fingerstripes13.
Nice.
Who asks, if the Hawks can reincarnate across both time and space, and we know multiple variations of them can exist at once, how many can exist at once? Have they interacted with each other in significant ways? Do they realize who they're talking to when they do?
Great question.
Yeah.
And
they
do this in the Venditti run.
The 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in that run, part of it is that Carter keeps getting time displaced. And so he's traveling through time and meeting different versions of himself, including new ones that they created for the series. So one was a Kryptonian named Qatar All instead of L. They always do shit like that. You meet one at some point in that series, and his name is Carlos Salon. Salon, hall.
Sure.
So Carlos Salon, but he has that the plague mask kind of thing. He's from the 1400s or whatever. And he talks to them and he meets them, especially that Qatar All one on Krypton. Because that life is more or less near the end of Krypton.
Sure.
And that it's a really interesting one. They talk to each other and things like that. He does kind of interact with these different lives as he's going. The big payoff of all of that time displacement stuff and him interacting with these lives and having this weird relationship that he hadn't really had before of direct contact with himself is that what we learned in that series is that the Prince Khufu of Egypt was not his first life. That's a big retcon. It's that his first life was as Qatar Deathbringer, where he was like the general of this like giant army that basically just lay waste to planets.
Wow.
Killed like billions, trillions in that. And he's actually cursed to reincarnate until he saves more lives than he took.
Wow.
Which is like, I think,
a killer origin.
So cool.
Yeah.
Like really good.
And what's Shahira's deal?
Well, she's part of that. She's tied to it. And when this like other Deathbringer comes back through this like terror in reality, they what's the big villain's name? Something from Beyond the Void. They basically like he was in a pocket universe and they come back.
And there's from the
this
void.
Army of winged Deathbringers come to Earth. What Carter manages to do through comic booky shit is like summon every past life of his to like physically be present with him, and they all fight the Deathbringers.
Wow.
So he actually like, it's not just that he travels through time and talks to himself. They all end up in the same place fighting the same battle. So that thing you're talking about in the question of like, do they interact in a meaningful way? It's like, hell yeah. They all join together and fight together as like an army of one.
Crazy.
Which is like, it's pretty baller. And it's like a thing I love in comics is like you open a page and you go like, I want to take in every detail you put in here. And you're which one is that one? It's like, that guy actually kind of looks like he's like Tamaranian, like Starfire.
Sure.
Like that guy kind of looks like he is. There was a New God one. That was one they did. They invented like a new Genesis incarnation of him.
Wow.
And I can't remember what his name was, but they made like a Kirby New God lifetime for him, which was fucking cool. So it was like you get all these different like stylistic things where it's like that's Kirby art and like that's like Silver Age stuff, and that's, you know, like because Kadar all definitely is inspired by like Jor-El, like aesthetic wise, and I love like opening that page and being like, who the fuck's that guy? Who's that guy?
I like the idea too, because it's like time and space theoretically. It's like ones we haven't seen before we could still get
100%, and
cool.
And that series uses that to introduce some of these new ones too. Where they go like the world's our oyster. There's no end to this.
That's dope. I love that.
But I would I would throw out, even in the way that Doctor Who has, like, even Doctor Who has gone to the well of like you could reincarnate as the same guy.
Sure.
I think I would throw that in there too. Like,
why not?
Are there 3 Carter Halls? Sure.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
That version of me wasn't done yet. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just do it. It's fine. Yeah. You know, like that's my opinion of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Didn't Hawkworld? There was some incarnations that were.
There's some weird stuff. So like, they sort of were half trying to reconcile Golden Age and Silver Age Hawkman when Crisis happened.
Yeah.
But they did it in the wrong order, where they like basically when the way they had set it up timeline wise no longer made sense. Carter is supposed to be in the earlier generation of heroes, and Qatar was supposed to be the one with the Justice League. But the way they set it up and how like which stories were canon where, the timeline was wrong. So then they were like, okay, well that guy's not Qatar. That's actually Fel-Andar. He's a different Thanagarian. And like Carter did a thing, and then they did Hawkworld, and that changed something. And then they were like, actually, you're all just part of like a hawk god. And then like so many like individually, I really like a bunch of Hawkman books, but like truly it got to the point where DC was like, you can't use Hawkman.
We just can't figure it out.
The reason the character Zoriel exists is because DC was like, you cannot use Hawkman for JLA. They were like, it's too complicated. We fucked it up.
Yeah.
Leave it. And so they use Zoriel, an angel, just to get the aesthetic of a character with wings.
Wow.
That's where that character even comes from.
Wow, that's
was
so
DC
cool.
being like, leave the Hawks alone, essentially.
Crazy.
It's the JSA run with, is it Robinson first or Johns the whole time? Whatever it was. That run was like, we can sort it. And they more or less do, but it's not perfect. But that's where he starts showing up again. And then he ends up in Identity Crisis and stuff like that in the kind of mid to late 2000s. But it's like the mid 90s to like 2004 or something like that. Get the Hawks out of there. which is kind of interesting. So,
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes to us from Mars D95, who asks, do the hawks actually need the wings to fly if the nth metal is in the harness? If not, is the burden of having massive wings strapped to their backs worth it if just for the aesthetic?
So, nth metal itself does have gravity negating properties. So it does that. What the wings do is offer control, direction, propulsion, things like that. Like, can you fly with just nth metal? Of course you can. The Legion flight rings are an alloy of nth metal and some other stuff. So, like, yeah, you could totally fly and maneuver without them. Now, for the Legion rings, again, it's an alloy and it's the future. So let's imagine it's a lot easier. But, like, no. The nth metal is the thing that makes you fly. The wings are... my favorite versions of the Hawks are, like, yeah, they're strong. They've got, like, healing and stuff from the nth metal. Like, they have other powers. But the thing I like to think of is, like, lots of characters can fly. They should be the best at it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they have to be faster than Superman. Doesn't mean they got it. You know what I mean? But, like, no one should be a better aerialist than the Hawks.
Sure.
And to me, that's where the wings come in. It's about the precision, the maneuverability, you're not just like floating around and changing direction like you would with a ring. It's like real, like, acrobatic, like dogfight kind of shit.
Sure.
That's my, like, headcanon for them. I think there's some comic evidence for that, but that's how I think of them. As for them being like giant wings, like, yeah, they are. But the other thing with nth metal is it's a psychic metal. It responds to you psychically. Those wings, like, disappear into their harness.
Oh, really?
They, like, there have been versions where you could cut the harness off and the wings are still there. There are other versions where it's like they land and the wings go and kind of disappear. But more or less, it's a psychic metal. If the wings are too cumbersome, they can alter it.
Oh.
So it's actually, there's no, like, kind of weighing of if it's worth it for them.
Sure.
But also, I will say, worth it. You know, like, people like to shit on the Hawks and stuff like that. But, like, I think just
cool-looking heroes, yeah.
Fundamentally, there's something that we as people find cool about a dude with wings. Like the shape of a person, but with bird wings. It's why we like the idea of angels, you know, like the X-Men character. Like, there's something just so, like, even just the story of Icarus, the wanting to fly.
Yeah.
Like, a person with wings speaks to, like, a fundamental kind of, like, archetypal dream that people have of flying.
Like,
it's so primal. It's like, it's just like a shape we believe in. And you kind of go, like, does their costume have to be yellow and green and red? Like, maybe not. But should there always be a character in a comic book with fucking bird wings? Yes. Every time, always. Put him in there. Even if he's just in the background. We need to know that guy exists.
Yes.
You know, like, I think that's important and cool and worth it.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. Next question from the moral compass of the Doc Squad, who asks, was the faraway woman Naomi Carter sensitively and appropriately depicted?
So, actually, friend of the pod, Alex Jaffe, once wrote a really good article about this. There's a very short arc in a Ostrander Hawkman series. Maybe, I'm going to get the timing wrong. I think it's right after Hawk World. That essentially established Native American lineage for Hawkman.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. So Naomi Carter is, I can't remember the actual, like, their word for it, but she's Cherokee, essentially. She marries this guy named Perry Carter. Her name is Naomi something else. She marries this guy, Perry Carter, who she learns is actually Paran Katar of Thanagar.
Sure. Now,
here's a fun fact. On Thanagar, the naming convention is that your second name becomes the first name of your kid. So Paran Qatar is the father of Qatar Hall.
Sure.
Like that's how that goes.
Okay.
And theoretically, if he has a kid, that kid is Hall something.
Okay.
That's that. So, she marries Paran Qatar. They actually move to Thanagar, and she gives birth to Qatar, the Thanagarian incarnation of Hawkman. And they use the story to be like, because the Thanagarians are kind of xenophobic in that, so they use it to sort of like speak to like they don't accept like their mixed race marriage. Sure, and like they kind of use it to speak to all of that kind of shit or whatever. And she ends up leaving and going to Earth, but Paran keeps the kid, so Qatar grows up on Thanagar or whatever. And she like goes back to Earth, and then she sees like Hawkman on the thing. She also knew Carter and Shayera. Like there's a very kind of convoluted, like she knew them from back in the day.
Sure.
And then eventually she does meet Qatar Hall. And I think they even go like on an adventure in like the spirit world. Like the story goes into like a sort of like a Cherokee kind of Native American sort of thing. And there is an element of the hawk being an important icon there. I'm going to get it wrong, but like hawks and serpents, especially when you think of like the geography of where the Cherokee were.
Sure.
Hawks and serpents are part of that, the storytelling and the mythology and stuff like that. They used all of that in the story. I'm sort of half remembering it. Am I the person to say like they nailed it? Native American story, crushed it. Great. Sure. Probably no. But do I think Ostrander was like trying to do something interesting and inclusive and bring a new element in? And there's so woefully few First Nations kind of characters in comic books in general. I think it's one of those things where it's like I think he did it pure of heart, good intentions, relatively well. Could it use some improving? Almost certainly.
It's like that. What was that other book we read?
Does he have a blind spot? Definitely. But like, it's not. From my recollection of it is it's not like holy shit, what a racist. Like I think it's pretty good.
It's like that book that we read for
the one where Lois Lane turns black.
Yeah.
I would say this is better than that.
Sure, but it's like you come in there going, oh God, and then it's like, well, actually better than I assumed.
Yeah, it would be a mistake for me to just be like nailed it, crushed it, no notes.
Yeah.
But I do think it's like it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's better than you'd think.
Yeah, that's my feeling about it. I sort of half remembering it, but
sure. Yeah, as they like do some like real like hey how are you kind of shit.
Yeah, who knows? It's like issue 5 and something horrible happens. And like they're gonna fucking light me up, but you know what I mean.
Next question comes from Rubik's Cuban, nice, who asks, in Justice League Dark, Deadman and Dove have that weird relationship with him body hopping for the sex. Was Hawk ever aware of that, or was that swept under the rug?
Man, I don't remember that.
Yikes.
I don't love it. I do remember Deadman and Dove being together, and Hawk knew that they were together. In the New 52 run of Hawk and Dove, it bugs him so fucking much that Deadman is around at all. He doesn't like it. Deadman and Dove sort of form a thing, I think, during Brightest Day. They sort of become a thing, and that kind of carried. That was one of those weird things that sort of carried over into the New 52, like across that retcon. I don't really remember the body hopping thing.
Apparently, Deadman, being a ghost who can possess living bodies, enters into a romantic relationship with Dove by inhabiting the bodies of others. This aspect of their relationship does carry some strange implications and has been a point of controversy. Explicit awareness. There's no explicit moment in the Justice League Dark series or related titles where it is clearly shown that Hawk is fully aware of the specifics of that relationship, particularly the body hopping aspect for intimacy.
But here's the weirder thing, though. If you read the New 52 Hawk and Dove and Deadman can just talk to each other. Like, most people can't see Deadman at all.
Oh, wow.
But she can talk to him when he's in ghost form.
Weird.
So there's like, other than the actual physical part of it, there's no need to like body hop to express anything. Like, you know what I mean?
Ghost riding the dick?
I don't love it.
Sorry.
But, yeah.
Next question from Drago the Black Rose. What was your favorite live interpretation of Hawkman? There has been quite a few. And where would you like to see Hawkman end up in the future of DC live action?
I know there's like the weird 70s one, like Challenge of the Super Friends one, but
Sure.
I don't really know. I don't really have a memory of that. The three big ones for me are that I can speak to are Smallville, where I think the guy is fine, the performance is good, and the costume stinks.
Sure.
I hate that Hawkman costume, and I think it looks like shit, and it looks clunky, and it's not good. There's the Arrowverse, which is Falk Henschel is the actor, and I think he's kind of weak.
Sure.
Performance-wise. And the costume's a little plain. It's just sort of brown leather. Arrowverse. But it's fine. But Hawk Girl is the more interesting part of that.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a blank canvas.
Totally.
So there's not much to him. And then there's Black Adam, where it's Aldous Hodge plays Hawkman.
Yeah.
Of those three,
Aldous Hodge.
It's Aldous Hodge. Like, listen, Black Adam is whatever it is, but like, it's a pretty good Hawkman. I would say, like, his attitude is sort of like he is a good guy, but he's definitely a little like aggro.
Yeah,
you know, like what I would describe as like a quote good cop.
Yeah. We were both trying to get to that without saying cop. Yeah,
as good of a cop as you could be while being a cop.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's sort of where Hawkman has to
unless
live.
you're a New Zealand cop, and then you're just good.
Even if he's not like an actual cop like Qatar Hall. But I think that's I think that's where you have to land with Hawkman, is like he is trying to do good in that, but he still thinks that like you do good by being the strongest with the stick.
Yeah.
As opposed to like you know what I mean? Like, and I think he does a good job of it, and I like his sort of like the way that he plays. He also has like this very close friendship with Dr. Fate, and I like Carter's close friendships that kind of managed to get behind his sort of wall a little bit. Like, for a movie that is largely like
forgettable.
I mean like, I like it. Like, like is a strong word. I think it's entertaining. I have rewatched it and been like, yeah, sure. You know, it's not good, but I like him.
Yeah.
I think Hawkman is like solid in it. You know what I mean?
And maybe the best Dr. Fate we've ever had. Oh.
Well, I mean, God, if we're bringing up Smallville, Dr. Fate too. Like, and I don't mean to be this guy, but like Smallville, Dr. Fate is, I feel bad even saying it. He's just like doughy.
Yeah.
Like my problem with the costumes for the JSA when they do that shit on Smallville is they look like they just made costumes for anyone, not for these people.
Sure.
They are not tailored in any way for these people.
Yeah.
It was just like, we made it. Who knows who we'll cast? Put some pins in it.
True.
You know, like,
yeah.
They look like shit. I fucking hate those costumes, specifically Hawkman and Dr. Fate.
Totally.
I think they look horrible. But I like Aldous Hodge. Certainly, like, personality, characterization. You know, the design of it, again, is maybe a little plain gold. I do like the red in there. It's not bad. And I like how it, like, you know, he does the thing where they fold and go away and they show up. And, like, he's got a kind of, like, nanotech kind of thing. I think you do see, like, his strength and his determination. The fact that he's able to even fight Black Adam. Like, I think they do a good job of being like, Hawkman is cool.
Yeah.
You know, like, which is, we don't always get, you know.
I agree. Last question from JK, who asks, who are the big characters that are in the Blackhawks group? From what I've seen, the only character that really has much by way of personality is Lady Blackhawk.
Lady Blackhawk probably has the most personality. Like Zinda Blake probably has the most personality. So there is Blackhawk, the main guy, whose name is something Polish. It's like Jacob Porolski or like it's something like that. There's Andre the Frenchman. There's Stanislas the sidekick. There's Chop Chop the Chinese member. There may even be a German on the team.
Oh, wow.
Probably a Brit.
Sure.
The ones I remember are the Frenchman, because he's sort of like a fancy boy.
Yeah.
And Stanislas, because he's the sidekick.
Is there an American? There must be an American.
Probably.
Yeah.
They do have names, but
Sure.
the big ones that I like: Stanislas, Blackhawk, Lady Blackhawk, Chop Chop. You know. Yeah, there are a couple of others. Again, it did have a rotating cast, so like characters would come and go or whatever, but there is sort of like a core 5 to 8 kind of members of the team, and usually when they'd come back to it, you'd see those characters again, like a sort of soft reset kind of things. But yeah, the main guy, to be honest, it's more about the adventures. In my memory, like reading Blackhawks stories, it's like you're sort of like, oh, they went up against the war wheel, and I'm like focused on that. What was the thing we fought? There were like robot alligators, or there's the war wheel, or there's like a laser that fires to blah blah blah, or like something like that, and a lot less about like, what did Andre do? Like those aren't the things that stick out to me. I've read maybe like a dozen Blackhawk comics, so not like a ton even.
Sure.
Really. But the things that stand out to me weren't so much like them. It was more like the adventures.
Sure, yeah.
That's my feeling about them.
Like there were more conduits for the adventure. Yeah.
You know, like in the same way where it's like, I know, and people are going to come at me for this, like the same way as like Robin Hood and the Merry Men. I can name a couple of them.
Sure.
And I know they do have like personalities.
But yeah.
I don't see them as like the sitcom thing where it's like their personalities are so defined that now we drop them in an adventure and like, how is Friar Tuck going to deal with this?
Sure, yeah.
It's more like just the adventure and our characters are in it, as opposed to like the sitcom formula of like, I know what Chandler's like. So now imagine he's stuck in an elevator. Like, that's not the appeal of the Blackhawks, where it's like, oh, it's the war wheel. How will Andre deal with it? It's just like, could you imagine if a tank was a giant fucking, you know what I mean? Like the adventure is the thing, not the conduit for the character stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feeling about the Blackhawks.
Do you think that the porn version of Robin Hood is it crier fuck, or is it
oh no
trier cuck?
I mean, I don't know that we need to pun both words. I think it could be just friar cuck.
I guess, but it's less fun.
But hang on, I haven't finished the pitch.
Okay.
His pubes go in a circle, like Franciscan style, like
okay, you won me.
Around his
no,
dick.
He's a friar. No, it's important.
Friar cuck.
Yeah, no, he's a friar. Yeah, no. I hear what you're saying. No. I'm glad we solved that. That's important. That was the last question. If you want to send in a question for next week's theme,
which you'll see when it comes out,
okay, you can.
I definitely know what it is.
Okay, sure, because you could just say it then, and everyone would know it.
I could, but I just want to remind you all that I have the power here.
All right,
I need this.
Oh, fair.
I need this, man.
Yeah. Let him know that he's in charge.
I'm 43. I'm sorry.
We probably said that on a double
at some point.
Yeah. Everything's a crossover, including our real lives.
Yeah.
You can reach out to us on any of the social media platforms where you look up Dr. DC. So do that. Also, look us up on Patreon where you can subscribe.
Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Discord, our awesome Discord fan community. At the higher levels, you get bonus episodes, bonus series. Cerebros is almost done. going through the X-Men franchise, and it all helps to support us.
Is it Big John?
No, I think it's Little Johnson.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's good.
Hang on, I've got this.
Yeah.
Throbbing Hood.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
Throbbing Wood. Fuck.
I was gonna say circumcised.
I mean, it could be a that joke, but he
yeah.
could also be Throbbing Wood.
I mean, that's just classic.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's tasteful.
Yeah, right? And that's what we're aiming for.
Tasteful.
I'm going to do a full, 3-hour Prince of Thieves.
Subscribe to the Patreon and hear that. Also, if you like what we do, you might like what we do on another podcast. Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch podcast going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural every single week. We're at the end of season 9. We're about to be in double digits, baby.
I can't believe it. We're about to be in the final third of the series.
Holy fucking shit. Can you believe it?
Well, I guess after season 10 we'll be in the final
We're in the later
third.
half of the second.
We're in the later half of the second third.
Thank you.
Of 15 seasons
That's
of
all,
the show.
I think it's understandable when you put it in that context.
Yeah.
Only one way to find out, by subscribing. That is it for this week.
Adios.
Ciao.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.